Okay, welcome everyone. Welcome to this webinar about 5 years to financial freedom through multifamily short-term rentals with Jihab Shokri. We will wait just for a few minutes until the rest of the attendees can get connected. So thank you very much for your patience. Feel free to use the chat and the Q&A box if you have any questions during the presentation or any comments. At the end, Jihab will be answering all the questions. So please feel free to use the chat. Okay, so I will start with a short introduction about Real Estate IQ and who we are. Let me show you this quick video about our tools. Okay, so we are Real Estate IQ, a lead generation and software company focused on helping real estate investors to find deals within 90 days. We have our PropTech, skip tracing, and CRM software where you can find off-market properties before anyone else. We are mainly located in Texas, Florida, Georgia, and Utah. And as I already mentioned, these are some of our best tools that we are offering right now. We have our off-market leads and on-demand skip tracing. So if anyone is interested in having a free consultation about our tools and how they may help you, I leave a poll. So feel free to answer yes if you want to coordinate this consultation for free with us, and we will be contacting you. And now we will start with this webinar with Jihab about 5 years to financial freedom through multifamily short-term rentals. Jihab is a full-time real estate investor and coach. He started seriously investing in real estate in 2015, and by 2019, he had accumulated over 25 rental units and was able to exit corporate America. So thank you very much, Jihab, for being once again today with us. It's a pleasure to have you. And now I leave you the space for your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Well, I'm really excited to be here, guys. What's so exciting is that, you never know when you're going to hear a message that's really going to change your life, right? Like, I remember listening to a lot of people when I was going through my journey of trying to become financially free and living the dream of being a full-time real estate investor. And, every time I went to a seminar or a presentation, that could be the moment that I would hear something that could change my life. And so that to me is really exciting, knowing that, no, this could be that moment for you. I could be sharing some information with you that you really didn't know, or share it to you in a way that maybe you just didn't hear it like this before, right? A lot of times people say the same thing, but it's the way they say it And it's the way you hear it and interpret it at that moment that really can make the difference, right? It could really resonate for whatever reason. So this could be that day, and I'm really excited to hear from all of you guys and to really take the time to share with you today. I'm going to try to get through this information as quickly as I can, because last time a lot of folks had questions. So I want to be able to leave a lot of time to be able to answer your questions, because I think this is pretty exciting, knowing that you could be financially free in the next 4 to 5 years. Like, give me some shouts in the comments, you know, like if you're excited to hear that you could be financially free, done with corporate America, done working in 4 to 5 years, right? Isn't that incredible? It happened to me, and I'm going to share with it how it can happen for you and how my students are doing it too. And I was actually looking through the participants on here, and I see several of my students on the call. So, you know, students, feel free to weigh in too and let everybody know that this is real. This is not just, you know, this is not just a gimmick. Okay. But let me share my screen here and really show you how I was able to do that, and really how that's possible. Okay. So real quickly, you know, I want to share with you this one strategy that I use to achieve financial freedom. I'm going to assume that everybody on this call wants to be financially free. Some of you may not be looking for that, but I will be talking from a point of view of being able to, you know, quit your job, retire from corporate America, if that is your goal. And if that's not your goal, then maybe you just use my techniques and strategies to start building a little bit of a portfolio on the side and following the practices of wealth building, which you read about in Rich Dad, Poor Dad and things like that. And just, you know, build some extra properties on the side too. You don't have to necessarily take it all the way to being a full-time real estate investor and having a full-time business if that's not what you want. But just a little bit of background on me. I mean, I'm just a regular IT guy who worked in healthcare IT. I worked for some large hospital systems here in Houston, where I'm from, and also worked in the consulting world. Fun fact about me, I'm a world air hockey champion. I'm just competitive like that. And it's something that I started playing in college. I've done over 100 real estate transactions, but the transactions that really matter are the ones that I've done in the last few years. Okay. And that's really important, because you can spin your wheels in real estate and go down a lot of different rabbit holes, like wholesaling or flipping or note buying or a lot of different things. But the key is to do the activities that lead to financial freedom, if that's your goal, the things that lead to wealth building. And that's really what I'm going to talk about, because that was a mistake I made for 13 years. I did my first real estate flip at the age of 27. I'm 46 now. So for 13 years, from 27 to 40, I was flipping a house here and there because I watched HGTV shows and I thought that was the thing to do, make some extra money. But that wasn't a wealth building strategy, and is not a wealth building strategy. That's really kind of working yourself into a job. The same for wholesaling too. These are one and done transactions that don't continue to pay you in perpetuity. And that really is critical and important if you want to build financial freedom and you want to build passive income. Okay. And I'm going to show you how to do that today. But just in the last few years, now that I know what I'm doing, and I bought just a handful of really smart short-term rental investments, Airbnb investments, and now they're generating over $100,000 a month. And that's only off 5 investments, 5 deals. All right. And I'm going to share with you guys what those deals were. Okay. And I think everybody on this call can do 5 deals. I believe in all of you. And as I tell all of my students, if you just do 1 deal a year, okay, in 5 years, you could be financially free, and not just financially free, but financially thriving, like crushing it, making some serious money. Okay. And I'm going to be transparent with you guys today. I'm going to show you guys what I'm making, just so you know what's possible. Okay. So after doing this for many years now, I've learned 3 important lessons. Okay. The first one, in order to be financially steady cash flow. Okay. That's why I say wholesaling, flipping, things like this that are not creating steady cash flow are not financial freedom strategies. It's okay to go wholesale and flip a few houses if you want to build up your cash, which I recommend that you do that. But just understand that that's not going to create long-term wealth, and that's going to be a job, because you have to keep doing it to keep getting paid. Okay. Freedom comes when you own a kind of a collection of properties that continue to pay you every single day, every single month. So that means you don't have to go out and do another deal to keep getting paid. You can reach a point in your portfolio that you've done enough deals and you have enough steady cash flow coming in that if you don't go out and do any other deals, no other deal, you're going to continue to get paid, continue to be able to pay your bills, and continue to thrive. And that's freedom right there. Okay. The second lesson I learned is that you have to be very judicious with your cash. Okay. I know people that, save up $100,000, 10 years working in corporate America, and then they go use 60 or 70,000 of it as a down payment on a rental property. Okay. A really nice rental property. And that rental property realistically as a landlord only makes $200-300 a month in profit. So if your $60,000 investment is only making you $200, $300 a month in profit, and it took you 10 years to save that up, that's not going to be a winning strategy. And you just wasted 10 years of savings right there, right? You got to go spend another 10 years saving up another $100,000. And if you buy another property just the same way, now you got $400 or $500 a month in profit coming in, and you're still way far from being able to be financially free. So you have to be very protective of your cash and be very judicious with it, or else you're just going to run out and your whole business is just going to kind of fade out. And the third thing is you have to maximize your return on investment. And that's really what I'm going to talk about today, is how to take your cash, invest it in the right way that can allow you to make really big returns so that you don't have to own 40, 50, 60 properties. You can be financially free with just 3 or 4 or 5 really smart buys, okay? Because they make so much money. And by the way, I'm inside one of my Airbnbs right now. This property that I'm in here is going to be, you're going to probably see pictures of it throughout the presentation, but this is my duplex that I'm in right now that I'm going to talk about in the presentation. And this property is just incredible when you see the numbers. Okay, so I discovered all of this the hard way, but I'm going to share with you the easy way because you get to cheat and hear it from me today. And that's what I'm so excited about. So the 3 things I'm going to talk about today are my wealth building strategy and really how I buy properties, okay, which is called the BRRRR method. And actually now it's really called the BRRRR method, right? The second part is what I buy. And this doesn't just have to be multifamily properties. This can be single family properties too. And then what I do with them, which I've already told you, I turn them into short-term rentals, which are the same thing as Airbnb or BRRRRs. So those are the 3 things I'm going to share with you guys today. And really those 3 things together are what make this strategy so successful. Okay, you have to do all 3 of them if you want to be able to build the same kind of business that I have. Okay, so how I buy properties, the BRRRR method. A lot of you guys might have heard about this, but I'm going to go into a little bit of detail about BRRRR because it's important. Not all BRRRR is created the same, right? I mean, there's different ways of doing it. And I want to share with you how I do it because it's really important. Now, the 5 steps of the BRRRR method are buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and repeat. And really why this strategy is so important in this whole wealth building approach is because if you do this right, it allows you to get your cash back, a lot of your cash back or all of your cash back at the end of the project when you're done with the rehab. And that's important because getting your cash back means that you have your money to go do another deal again, right? You don't have to wait 5 or 10 years for you to save up cash from your job to be able to go do another deal. You've gotten your cash back at the end of the rehab so that you can go and do another deal, immediately after this. And like I said, even if it takes you 9 months or 10 months to get through this whole process and refinance, which is what's happening with one of my students, Heather, who I'm going to talk about today, even if it takes you 10 months. So basically you're able to do one of these deals a year. When you see the kind of return that you make, you'll be perfectly okay just doing one deal a year for the next 5 years. That's all it takes, I'm telling you. Okay. So you buy it, you fix it up, and you're doing it with a short-term loan, which is like a hard money loan. Okay. And then when you're done with the rehab, you refinance it, or you can start renting it, and then you refinance to get your cash back, and you move the loan into a longer term loan, like a 20-year mortgage or a 30-year mortgage at a lower interest rate. Okay. And then because you got your cash back, you repeat this all over again. That is the BRRRR strategy. Okay. So the buying part, the buying starts with properties that are in significant disrepair. Okay. I mean, this is the part of the business that you have to get comfortable. You have to be okay buying ugly properties. And when I mean ugly, I'm talking about really ugly. And I'll show you pictures today too. And because basically you have to be able to purchase and rehab the property all in at 70% of the after repaired value. Okay. So that means you probably have to buy the property at like 50% and then use the other 20% to fix it up. That way you're all in at 70% of the after repaired value. And I'm telling you, to buy a property at 50 cents on the dollar, it's got to be pretty bad. It's not going to just be light, paint and a kitchen remodel, like on the DIY shows. I'm talking about a full renovation here, okay? Which means you've got to have good contractors and a good team, but I'll share with you guys how I do that as well. And so basically, once you get the property under contract, you've got a due diligence period, an option period to go through, walk it with your general contractor, walk it with your architect, really figure out if this is going to be a great deal or not, and if all your numbers are working out. Okay, if your rehab estimates are right, if your after repaired value is right, because all of those numbers are factored into your analysis and making sure it's a good deal. So if you look at the example down here at the bottom, if you have a property with a purchase price of $200,000 and it's going to cost you $100,000 to fix it up, which means you're all in it for $300,000. If the after repaired value, the ARV, comes in at $450,000, you just take your total investment, which is $300,000, divide it by 450, and that means you're at 66% loan to value, which means you want to be under 70%. So that means this is a good deal for you, assuming that all those numbers are correct. Okay. Now, the next step is the rehab, right? I always do a high quality renovation because I don't want to deal with maintenance problems down the road. So because I'm buying ugly properties, I'm replacing plumbing, electric, AC, sheetrock, insulation, windows, roof, all those things that need to be done because these properties are in really bad shape. And when we look at the pictures, you'll get an idea of what I'm talking about. I never cut corners because I don't want to deal with maintenance issues. And I don't want my Airbnb guests down the road to have maintenance issues because that's going to affect your reviews, and reviews affect your bottom line. It affects how much money you make at the end of the day. I like to use an architect. All my students use an architect to really maximize this space. Like this property I'm in right now, the walls and everything that you're looking at, they were not like this when I bought the property. I needed an architect to come in and have the vision to map out the units the way that they were, put it on AutoCAD, and then have him redraw it out in a way that really made sense, that created this open concept property that I'm in today. And so this unit, each of these units in this duplex are 3 bedroom, 3 bath, which is a really cool type property because every bedroom has its own bathroom, right? So that's really great for Airbnb. So really optimize the property when you are using an architect, okay? The nicer the remodel, the more you can charge, the better quality renters you can get, the better your reviews, the more money you make. That's just the bottom line there. Okay, so then you can rent it, right? You can start taking professional photos. You're going to furnish it. You're going to work with a wholesale furniture distributor and a wholesale buyer to be able to buy all the things you need for your Airbnb, which is somebody that I work with. I have a really great furniture wholesaler that I use that I'm actually meeting with tomorrow, and I'm meeting with an interior designer tomorrow to be able to interior design my projects that I have going on right now. And I take advantage of other discounted buying tools that are out there to buy, like my dishes, my pots and pans, all of the things that you need to really be able to stock this Airbnb, right? And so I furnish it. In the meantime, I've already called up my long-term lender, and I'm getting the refinance going, which I'll talk about in just a second here, but that's all in the works as I'm getting it ready to be rented out, okay? So then is the refinance part, right? You've done a great renovation. You're able to call your long-term lender now, and they come out and they order a new appraisal, right? Now the appraiser is not using his imagination anymore. He's not saying, okay, this is what the property is going to look like. Now they're able to see it completed. And as long as you didn't cut corners, most of the time those appraisals come back a lot higher than what your initial appraisal came at when you got your short-term loan, your hard money loan. And I'll show you an example of that with my student Heather's project. And this process, now you're able to move on with the refinance process. The great thing about the refinance is a lot of lenders will allow you to refinance at 75% of the newly appraised value. So as long as you rehabbed it for 70% and you stayed within that budget, now you're going to be able to do a cash out refinance at 75%. And as long as you're using the right lenders, you don't have to worry about seasoning period, which means you don't have to own the property for a year or 2 years to be able to do that. If you're working with the right lenders, the small local banks like Central Bank or Amity Bank, if you're in Houston, or Prosperity Bank, small local banks like that, those are the lenders that you want to be working with to be able to do your cash out refinance, and they will refinance you at 75%. And I'll tell you, once they get comfortable with you and you really have a good working relationship with them, they'll even refinance you at 80%. But you've got to build that rapport and have that credibility with them. Okay. And those loans will be anywhere from 20-year loans, typically 25-year loans. So you really are able to manage your monthly payment so that you can really cash flow nicely on these properties, okay? And then, of course, since you've gotten your cash back and you have this beautiful remodeled property, you can repeat this all over again because you didn't tie up all of your money in this one deal, right? And that's the whole beauty of the BRRRR strategy, all right? So that's what this strategy is all about. And as long as you're doing it that way, you're able to continue to kind of turn out properties one a year. Like I said, you don't have to do more than that. And these properties will continue to pay you over and over and over again. They're not one and done transactions like wholesaling or flipping. These are properties that you really do a great job with, and you nurture them so that they continue to pay you every single day, every single month. All right. So that's what this strategy is all about. Let me show you some examples, because you're probably asking yourself, well, Jihab, if I'm going to go through all this work of managing contractors and dealing with the headaches and all that stuff, is it worth it? Right. And let's talk about it being worth it or not. Okay. So believe it or not, this building you're looking at is the building I'm in right now. This is 3404 Rosedale. It's near the medical center. It's a duplex. I'm in the upstairs unit. There's another unit downstairs. Each unit is 3-bedroom, 3-bath. I purchased it for $197,000 off of the MLS, because I do find really good deals off the MLS. And I'll show you some good deals that we purchased off the MLS. I spent $150,000 on the rehab, including putting a pool in, because pools are kind of a hot item right now for short-term rentals, Airbnbs. When people do searches on Airbnb, one of the top searches top amenities that they put in their search are pools. So people want pools, all right? So I decided to invest the extra $25,000 in putting in a small little pool in the back there. So total investment is $365,000. When I ordered my appraisal on the refinance, it came in at $550,000. Now that was like at the end of 2020. Now the market has just gotten crazy. So now I estimate that this property is closer somewhere to about $675,000. Okay, so I have a ton of equity in this property, which is great, first off. But the cash flow in this thing is what's really incredible. This is what 3404 Rosedale looks like today. Okay, so you can see the picture. This is the background there. It's kind of like the wall that's behind me here. And my monthly revenue, when I launched this property in early 2021, in May, this place made $14,500, June, $13,000, July, almost $16,000, and in August, $14,700. Okay, my monthly expenses on this, my mortgage is only $2,700. I pay my cleaners. I have other expenses like internet, electricity, pool maintenance, water bill, some maintenance here and there every now and then, lawn maintenance. Those are pretty much the expenses you have. And then replenishing supplies for Airbnb, like coffee, toilet paper, things like that. Those add up to another $2,000. So total, my monthly mortgage and expenses are $6,700. When you subtract that from the revenue that I'm making, this place makes anywhere from $6,000 to $9,000 a month on average. My best month, it's making $9,000. Now, here's the question. How many of these properties do you need to own to become financially free? You don't need to own like 20, 30 properties. You only need to own a small handful of these properties. And so that's what's really important. This project took me 1 year to do. From the time I purchased it, rehabbed it, got all my furniture in, my appliances, and actually launched it on Airbnb, it took me like 13 months, a year and an extra month too, okay? And so that 13-month process is what allowed me to make $6,000 to $9,000 a month in profit. And I've just continued to do that. I've continued to do one deal a year. And actually, I kind of didn't get a deal completed in 2021. So now I'm catching up and I'm finishing up 2 deals this year. But for the most part, I'm not even getting a deal a year done. And my revenue, my income is just going through the roof. Okay. So that's really the moral of this story here, is how much money you can make from this short-term rental BRRRR business. Let's take a look at Rosedale though, as a long-term rental versus a short-term rental. Okay. So I was working at a consulting job. I was making $180,000 a year, $15,000 a month. If your definition of financial freedom is like my definition of financial freedom, which means I wanted to make sure I was making enough money in real estate to replace my job. And actually, I hated my job so badly. I mean, that was like the minimum the minimum standard that I could have for financial freedom. But really, you probably want to be making more money in real estate because you've got extra expenses like healthcare, and you want to be able to save extra money and things like that. But I was just like, I've just got to replace my job because I hated it and I had to get out of corporate America. If you look at Rosedale as a long-term rental, each of these units would only go for $2,000 a month, okay, on a traditional 1-year lease. So that means this property would make $4,000 a month because I have 2 units. My mortgage is $2,700. Let's just assume $300 for expenses. So this property would make me $1,000 a month net profit as a long-term rental. Okay. How many of these properties would I need? Go ahead in the chat box. How many? This is a little bit of a math question here. How many of these properties would I need? How many Rosedales would I need to be able to replace my $15,000 a month salary if it's making $1,000 a month? Let's give the chat a couple of minutes here to see what people say. Okay, 15. All right, 6. Well, maybe not quite 6. 15. All right. Well, you guys are definitely some rock star mathematicians because you're right. If this property is making $1,000 a month and I want to make $15,000 a month to replace my job, I would need to own 15 of these properties as long-term rentals. Now, let's look at it as a short-term rental. So now I just told you that it makes anywhere from $6,000 to $9,000 a month profit. So let's just use $7,000 for easy math. Okay. So $7,000 a month. And I'm going to move this out of the way here so I can kind of read my slides here. Okay. $7,000 a month. At times 2 equals $14,000. So my mortgage would be $2,700. My expenses would be $4,000. My net profit would be $7,300 a month on this property. Now, if my net profit is $7,300 a month on Rosedale, which I told you it makes anywhere from $6,000 to $9,000, how many of these properties would I need to be able to replace my corporate salary? Let's go ahead and put that in the chat box here. See how. I already know we have smart math people in here, so this should be a pretty easy one here. 2 to 3, 2 to 3. Yeah, definitely 2 to 3. Awesome. That's right. 2. Okay, 2. Well, I mean, if I'm being a little bit conservative, right? 2.5, 3, right? So that's you guys are really understanding the gist. Now, this is the important question, right? Is it going to take you more time or less time to acquire 3 properties versus 15 properties, right? It's definitely going to take you less time to buy and rehab and refinance 3 properties versus 15 properties. So not only am I talking about the BRRRR strategy and being able to get your cash back, but I'm also talking about maximizing the return that you can make on every property that you buy. Right. So yes, Airbnb is a little bit more work. Yes, you have a little bit more, a little bit more management that's involved. But the point is that it's worth it. It's worth it if you're making 3 to 5 to 6 times the amount of money you would make versus a long-term rental. Right. It's worth it if you can become financially free if you can retire off 3 properties versus 15 properties. Right. It's worth it if it can make such significant cash flow and allow you to become financially free in 5 years versus 25 years. Okay. So it's worth it is the bottom line, right? It's not a question about, is this really making this much money? I am making this much money through my short-term rentals. The question really is it worth the extra work? And I'm telling you from experience, it's definitely worth it. And you can automate a lot of things through Airbnb nowadays. And I'm going to show you the automations that I have to be able to do this while I had a full-time job. Okay. So let's talk about Heather. I've mentioned Heather a few times, and I want to share with you just this quick video that I made with Heather. It's funny because when I created this presentation and I made this and this video was made, this was when Heather was first in the start of her project. It's a 5-plex that she's remodeling. This is her first deal she's ever done. Heather's a stay-at-home mom. She's an HR recruiter by training, but she's a stay-at-home mom now. And she joined my program and just really wanted to dive in and have the right guidance. So the funny thing about this video is that when I created it, that she was just in the beginning of this, but now Heather's in the end of the project. So I can actually show you as well what Heather's property looks like now. So it's pretty cool. So let's just take a quick look here.
So this is a single family house in the front with 3 bedrooms and 1 bath. The back is a 2-story structure with a garage and 2 apartments above it. So what we're going to do is turn this front house into 3 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, and add 90 square feet. And the back structure, we're going to turn into 4 1-bedroom, 1-bath apartments for a total of 5 units. This property was originally listed on the MLS for $260. We got it under contract for $210. We're going to spend about $190,000 for a full gut renovation, putting us all in at $400,000. We expect the ARV to come back around $550,000 when we're finished. So we're going to list this property on Airbnb. We expect the front house, the single family house, to bring in about $4,000 a month in revenue. And we expect the 4 units in the back to bring in about $6,000 a month for a total of $10,000 a month in revenue. There have been so many lessons that I've learned already in this process, but I would say the most impactful lesson that I learned was in the very beginning when this property was first listed on the MLS. I found it myself, I analyzed the deal, I ran the numbers, and it didn't work. Later, Jihab posted this property, sent it out to our group, and I called him immediately and said, why do you think this is a good deal? Look at my analysis, this doesn't work. Jihab encouraged me to call the agent, to develop a rapport and talk to him, tell him what I thought that I could pay for the property and follow up with him. I did that, and when the sellers came down on the price, I was the first person the agent called, and I made an offer that day. So initially, my husband and I got into real estate investing because we wanted to diversify our retirement portfolio. But after seeing the power of real estate investing up close, particularly the kind of investing that Jihab is teaching, we plan to become financially free far sooner than retirement. So this mentorship program is life-changing. It's done so many things. First, it's given me the practical tools and information that I need to understand real estate investing. Second, it gave me access to so many people, contractors, agents, designers, other real estate investors, all the people that I needed to build my team. But finally, the most important thing this program has done for me is it's given me the confidence to know that I could do this. It got me out of my analysis paralysis, which is really just fear, and gave me the confidence to do this. And I'm so excited.
Awesome, guys. So the beauty of what I was mentioning now is Heather is done with her project. She's actually getting it staged and ready for Airbnb. So if we go to my Instagram here, which by the way, guys, I have really great content on my Instagram. So take the time, pull your phones out and follow me on Instagram. It's Rehab with Jihab. You'll want to follow me because I'm always taking content from my course, my mentorship program, and I'm just taking that and I'm putting it on my Instagram because I think it's great to be able to share this with you guys and help you grow and build your business. The other thing that's really important is real estate investing is like everything else. Your motivation is always going up and down. Like you might join this webinar today and get really excited, right? But then the next day life happens, you go back to work and then you kind of forget about it, right? And so you need to be following people, not just me, but whoever motivates and inspires you to keep you motivated, to keep pushing through so that eventually you will reach your goal and you will become the successful real estate investor that you want to be. Okay. So it's really important to follow people that can help you stay motivated. But here's a video I just did with Heather right here. And so let's take a look at how our property looks like now. On her 5-plex Airbnb, it's a 3-bedroom, 3-bath house in the front and 4 1-bedroom apartments in the back. Let's go inside and take a look at how it's coming along. Assembling furniture. This is the hustle, guys. This place looks amazing. You should have seen it before. Wow. She's mounting TVs. Looks like she's putting the beds in here. And guys, can we talk about this shower real quick? This is so cool. It's kind of a panel glass with black lines in it. Love it. I'll keep this happening from now. But wait, there's more. Back forward here. All right, 4 1-bedroom, 1-bath apartments in the back. Let's take a look at one of the 1-bedroom apartments in the back here. Super cute. Anyway, I think you guys got the gist. But one of the things that I talk about at the end of the video here is that her appraisal just came back. So Heather's in the process of the refinance process right now of the BRRRR strategy. Her appraisal came back 625. I don't know if you remember, but in the video when she was talking, we estimated that her ARV would be 550, but because she did such an amazing job, it came back at $625,000. And I think this property now looking at the property and seeing her furnishing it and getting it ready, I think it's going to make somewhere around like $12,000 to $14,000 a month on Airbnb gross, which means that net, she's probably going to be making around $6,000 to $7,000 a month in profit, like cash in the bank. Okay, so I think that's a really great property and a real example of how one of my students has really just crushed it. And Heather's goal is just to do one of these a year. I mean, it's not a crazy, ridiculous goal. It's just do one of these a year, slow and steady. And in 5 years, I mean, her and her husband are going to be, completely done and retired. Now let's talk about like where this can really go for you. Okay, because this property right here is a 16 unit that I'm remodeling. Now, this is one of my properties right here, and I'm planning on making this all Airbnb. So I'm really taking the boutique hotel concept and really taking it to that level here. So, I did just a few deals on Airbnb, and that gave me the confidence to say, you know what, I can really take on a big project. And so when a realtor came to me with this deal and said, hey, Jihab, are you interested in buying this 16-plex near, again, kind of the 3rd Ward area near downtown Houston? I said, yeah, but I want to do it. And I'm going to put them all on Airbnb too. So it's kind of a boutique hotel. And so this is 16 apartments, 10 of them are 2-bedroom, 1-bath, 6 of them are 2-bedroom, 2-bath. I bought it for $815,000 from a realtor who brought me the deal. I'm spending $500,000 on the rehab. I'm almost done. I'm like installing doorknobs and cabinet pulls and things like that right now. So it's literally almost done. I've got my cleaner coming in on Monday to do a deep cleaning. So it's pretty much there. Total investment is $1.35 million. And when I ordered the appraisal for the after repaired value, it came in at $2 million. So I already have $650,000 worth of equity in this deal. And by the way, that appraisal, these appraisals that are happening for these multifamily properties that I'm showing you, appraisers right now are only using long-term rent, okay, for their appraisal. So, for multifamily properties, their value is based on how much money they make every month. I know, a lot of you guys may or may not realize that. It's not just based on comps and recent sales. It's based on how much money it makes. So for example, I mean, it makes sense. A property that makes, $1 million a year is worth a lot more than a property that makes $200,000 a year, right? So this value of $2 million is the value of this 16-plex being long-term rentals. Well, we already know that this property is going to make way more money than a long-term rental. So in reality, if this property is worth way more than $2 million, probably more. If you were to value it based on the money that's going to make on Airbnb, this place is worth $4, $5, $6 million, right? And people, once Airbnb really continues to keep developing and appraisers and banks start using Airbnb income for their valuations, all of these properties that we own today are going to be worth way more. They're just going to go way, just like that overnight, they're going to go way up in value because now they're going to be looked at from an income point of view, an Airbnb income point of view, which is going to bring the values way up. Okay, now let's take a look at what 2210 Barbie is doing, it looks like right now. Okay, so real quickly, the numbers. My monthly revenue projected on this property, I'm expecting it to make anywhere from $55,000 to $65,000 a month. Okay, my expenses, my mortgage is $9,200, cleaning $5,000, other expenses like, again, internet, coffee, water, bill, just the miscellaneous stuff, $4,000. So $18,200 for easy math. Let's just say the expenses on this place are going to be $20,000 a month, okay, including the mortgage. That means this property alone, one deal, is going to make anywhere from $35,000 to $45,000 in profit every month. And you are capable of doing that. Once you start doing a couple of deals and you get comfortable with the systems, the Airbnb systems and the remodels and the management, you're very capable of doing a project like this. My biggest Airbnb prior to this one was a 6-plex. Okay, so I did a 6-plex, a 4-plex, a duplex. That's kind of been my history here. And then I said, why not? If I can do a 6-plex, why can't I do a 16-plex, right? And generate that kind of income that this property can make. So it's pretty incredible. And let me just show you what this one looks like right now. So I guess before it looked like this, pretty bad shape. Just real quickly, this is also, again, off of my Instagram here. You can see kind of what it looks like now. All right, so there you go. So I'm calling it the Barbie because it's on Barbie Street. So I thought, let me just come up with this catchy little name here, call it the Barbie, and that's why it has that name there. I bought that metal sign off Etsy, by the way, just in case anybody's interested in things like that. So that's Barbie, and that's one of my most recent deals right now. 4 must-have automations that you need for your short-term rental business. So, especially while you have a full-time job. Look, guys, I had 25 units, including long-term and short-term rentals when I left corporate America. So I was able to manage 25 doors, right, while having a full-time job. And I was able to do that because Airbnb has these types of automations. My long-term rentals are really easy. I mean, your tenants just pay rent every month and, don't really bother you as long as you're putting good tenants in there. But short-term rentals are the ones that take a little bit more time, and these automations really help to cut back on the time. Okay, the first automation I have is pricing. So that automatically updates my pricing every day to make sure that I'm competitive in the market. The second one I have is messaging. So I send my guests a series of messages. The tool I use is called Guesty. There's another one that's out there called Smart B&B, which is really popular. But these automatically send messages to my guests so that I'm not having to message with them directly. I'm letting them know, the address, when check-in, check-out time is. I'm letting them know I'm excited about their arrival. I'm reminding them that their arrival is tomorrow. All the different series of messages I send them through this automated messaging, so that I'm not manually sending messages to guests all the time, right? I also automate my cleaning also through Guesty. So my cleaners have access to my Airbnb calendar, so they can see whenever guests are checking in, checking out. They know exactly when a guest is checking out, so they have to go there and clean. I also send them an automated text reminder the day before. Hey, just a reminder, tomorrow's a cleaning in this unit, so it's all really automated and really well managed through Guesty. And Guesty is what's called a channel manager. There's other channel managers out there too that a lot of people use, but this is just the one that I particularly use. It was originally called Your Porter, but they just got bought out by this company, Guesty. Okay. And then the last thing are smart locks, because you don't want to deal with keys, right? You don't want people to call you up and say, hey, I'm checking into your unit and there are no keys in the lockbox. What's going on? No, you never want to deal with keys. So everything is automated through smart locks, and the guests just have to put in a PIN code, right? The Yale smart locks, which a lot of people like, actually integrates with Airbnb. So it'll take like the last 4 digits of the guest's cell phone number or telephone number, and it'll automatically make that their key code for the smart locks. So it has a pretty cool feature where it has automation with Airbnb too. So these are 4 automations that you must have, and these are all automations that I had while having my full-time job that made Airbnb really easy for me. So what would your income look like if you did one of these a year? This is where I'm going to be fully transparent with you, because this is my journey right here. I'm going to show you exactly the properties that I bought and what this turned into in terms of like, dollars. So in 2018, my first Airbnb was 2212 Rosewood. It's a 6-plex. The average rent that it makes is $16,000 a month. Okay, which means that this is total rent, gross rent. Okay, which means that some months are like $15,000, some months are $20,000. Okay, so it just varies. In 2019, 1912 Arbor was the next property that I bought. Again, full gut renovation, BRRRR strategy, refinanced out, got my money back. Okay, and that's a 4-plex, makes $10,000 a month. 2020 is Rosedale. That's what we're in right now. Okay. This is a picture of Rosedale. It makes $14,000 to $16,000 a month, but I'm just saying on average, 13,000 to be real conservative here. Okay. And now 2021, I actually bought 2 properties, Barbie, the 16-plex. And I didn't talk about this one, but there's one on Maltby Street. It's a mechanic shop that I'm converting into 4 Airbnb. So it's pretty cool. It's industrial style mechanic shop. Neither one of those finished up in 2021. So those are actually going to finish up in 2022. But, Barbie, I already talked about, it's going to make around $55,000 a month. And Maltby, which is the mechanic shop, about $12,000 a month, because it's kind of a really cool, unique space. So I'm estimating that each of those units is going to make about $3,000, and there's 4 units, so $12,000 a month. So that's been the journey, right? Like you're not seeing me put 30 or 40 properties up here, just 5 properties over 5 years that I really was smart and had the right strategy with, okay, to make maximum return on investment. And so that's what it looks like. Total, if you're wondering what those numbers add up to, that adds up to $106,000 in monthly rent. And then in terms of annual revenue, 1.27 million, okay? Now you can subtract the mortgage from all that, and you can subtract the expenses and vacancy and all the different things that you guys, are running through your heads while you're having analysis paralysis, but it still ends up with a really healthy income, okay? So, and a ton of equity, right? These properties have a ton of equity. So if you're worried about the market or things like that happening, look, I mean, you've got lots of protection with these properties because they have equity. You have options. You can sell them. You can refinance them. You could, do a second loan on them. But they're making so much money that you're putting a lot of cash in the bank. So it's really going to help you weather the storm if anything happens with the market. And if you're worried about Airbnb, not being around, trust me, the hotel industry is suffering right now because people are choosing Airbnb or VRBO over a lot of hotels these days. Okay. So this is a great space to be in, and it's not oversaturated. Just make sure you're picking great properties, offer great amenities, offer great customer service, and you will be able to beat out the competition. Okay, so what do you need to be able to do this in your business? I want to wrap up because I want to answer all your questions here. Okay, so first off, you've got to grow internally, and a lot of people who want to be successful real estate investors neglect this part. Okay, because what you do today, what you do now is a reflection of who you are. Okay. I mean, bottom line. And if you don't believe that, then you're really not being honest with yourself. Okay. If you're going to a 9-to-5 job, that's because you're comfortable being in that position. And I was comfortable in that position too, but I had to read books like Rich Dad, Poor Dad and Secrets of the Millionaire Mind and watch podcasts and listen to bigger podcasts and do all the things to reprogram my mind, my mindset and my habits to be a bigger person than I was working the 9-to-5 job. So personal growth is super important in this whole journey. Don't neglect that right there. Next, you have to have the knowledge, right? Find deals, analyze deals, making offers, managing contractors, all those good things. I mean, that's just, again, the basics, right? You have to have a team, lenders, contractors, architects, inspectors, title companies, short-term lenders, long-term lenders, all of the right people that you need to be able to support you in this whole journey, okay? And then, a community. A community is really important because community can provide the moral support, the emotional support, the referrals, right? They can share somebody you can bounce ideas off of. It's really important to be surrounded by like-minded people. So the community is really important in the journey as well. You don't want to be kind of a lone wolf and try to do this on your own because it's really difficult. For people that are really interested, really serious about financial freedom, and you really want to fast track it, I have created a mentorship program that provides you all of those things that you need. I have teams, I have the community, I have the training, I show you how to build your team. So I have a lot of the tools and resources to help you really just jump head first. Because, if you ask somebody like Heather or anybody else in the program, Heather took on a major 5-plex renovation that she would never be able to do on her own had she not been part of the mentorship program. But because I gave her the team, because I came to her property and even, looked over it with her, I gave her the contractors, the resources, the lenders, she was able to just kind of drop into my program and kind of pick up where I kind of, was able to optimize and create this great program. Like what I give my students is what took me years to build myself. but because they're able to just to kind of jump in at that point, they're able to kind of start where I kind of started 3-4 years into this whole process, right? And that's what you really want in a mentorship program, is you want somebody who can give you all the best tools and resources so that you can just kind of hit the ground running really fast. And so I have online training. I have a Facebook community for my program. I have weekly group coaching calls. And most importantly, it's a lifetime membership, okay? So, you know, it's not a 6-month program. It's not a 1-year program. If it takes you 5 years to acquire these 5 properties, I'm going to be with you along that whole journey, because I want to be there with you to help you become successful and get to your financial freedom goal. All right. So if you're really serious about mentorship, you know, if not, it's not a problem at all. If you feel like you have the right strategy, you have the right tools, and you can do this on your own, great, not a problem. But if you want a mentor, if you want somebody to hold your hand and really help you fast track it, and somebody that you can just, you know, ask questions to and get your questions answered, then that's what this type of program is for. And if you're really interested, you can schedule a call with me, and I'm happy to talk to you about it. I can talk to you about the pricing options. I can talk to you about what's included in the program. You know, I can talk to you about any details or questions that you have. So that's the link to get to my calendar. And if you click on that link here, it will open up my calendar here, and you can just click on it and select a time to chat with me. I'm going on vacation next week, so a lot of my following week is kind of blocked out. But find a time that works for you, and I'm happy to help you guys out. I'll put this in the link in the Q&A too, just so you guys can have that, or in the chat box, just so you guys can have that, and it'll be easier to click on. All right, so that's about my mentorship program. Okay, I won't say a lot more than that, except for, you know, just, you know, if you're thinking about mentorship, or you ever thought about mentorship, you know, these are the 3 people that I've noticed, 3 types of people that I've noticed mentorship really works well for, right? Person number 1 is the person that's always wanted to invest in real estate, but just didn't know how. Person number 2, you know, you just don't have the confidence to pull the trigger. You need somebody to kind of look over your shoulder, let you know something's a good deal. Or even person number 3 is, you know, you just kind of reached your tipping point. You're done with corporate America, kind of like what I was, and you're really serious now about financial freedom and early retirement. Okay. Those are the 3 people that I find to be the most successful people in my program, and the people that I like to work with. I will say this one last thing, because a lot of times people just don't believe that you have to pay to learn. But, you know, the thing about mentoring, or the thing about life, is one way or another, you're paying, okay, either through the School of Hard Knocks or through somebody kind of teaching you the right way to do things. But here's the tale of 2 people. Again, I just want to be fully transparent, because I've been honest with you guys this whole webinar, right? There's somebody like Heather, right, who studied real estate investing for 2 years. She listened to Bigger Pockets. She listened to podcasts. She read books, but she never took action, because it wasn't enough information for her to take action on. Okay, she needed step-by-step hand-holding, and that's what you get with mentorship. So she joined my program, and within 3 months, bought the property that you saw on Forest Hill, and is going to profit $6,000 to $8,000 a month. And we've talked about Heather, so you guys kind of understand what her story looks like. Okay. Here's another person, though, that recently reached out to me, and I kept their name anonymous because, you know, I don't want to hurt their feelings at all. But basically, they started by sending me a message saying, "Hey, are you still teaching classes and offering mentorship?" And I said, "Sure." You know, she asked, "Can you send me the details?" And so then I said, and this is somebody that I know, actually, but then I said to her, "What's going on?" And she actually went out and bought a property and tried to do this whole thing by herself, and didn't know how to manage contractors, didn't know about the construction process, didn't know how to vet contractors properly. So she did kind of all the wrong things. And now the contractor stole their money. They're hiring a lawyer. If you read the messages there, they're having to get an attorney to try to sue the contractor. So she's paying for it, right? She paid to learn the lesson, but unfortunately she's paying a lot more than had she joined my mentorship program initially. And she's learning from the School of Hard Knocks, right? So it's really unfortunate, but I just want you guys to know that one way or another, you do pay to learn, right? And hopefully you don't pay too hard where it kind of takes you out of the game. But either if you pay through a mentor, either me or a different mentor, whatever mentorship program or learning program is fine. Just make sure that, you know, you're learning from somebody that really is doing deals, and not somebody that's only just talking about deals. Okay, that's the one thing I will tell you is really important when you're looking at mentors, is find people that are really doing deals. my students like to call me they call me a guru, not a guru, a guru, because I do deals, right? So just something to think about there. So here's the link here, guys. Again, one more time, if you are interested and you're really serious, reach out to me, and I'm happy to meet with you guys and talk to you about mentorship program. Okay. All right, let's answer your questions, because I want to be able to help you guys out in the last few minutes here, and I'm happy with going a little bit over if we're okay to go.
Thank you, Jihab. It was great presentation. We have some questions here in the Q&A.
Sure.
Would you like me to read them, or do you prefer to check them there?
I'll check them right now. I'll check them and answer.
Great.
Okay, so first question, are you able to get a 75-25 loan to value cash out refinance on your multifamily properties? Yes, yes. If you use the right banks, you can do 75% cash out refinance. And like I said, once you have good relationships, you can even get 80%, okay, cash out refinance. Were your architect and interior design consultations a part of the rehab costs? Yes, there are things that you need to factor in. And one of the tools I have in my program is a rehab estimator. So the rehab estimator accounts for architect fees. So if you check the box that says I'm planning on using an architect on this project in the rehab estimator, it will add that extra cost into your overall rehab estimate. Okay. So let's see, next question here. What are your location considerations when choosing a short-term rental property? Yeah, that's my biggest concern about the strategy. Sure. The thing about Airbnb is, I mean, people rent short-term rentals all over the place. But what I found that I really like is, looking for areas that are, close to attractions. So like here in Houston, my properties are really close to the Texas Medical Center. They're close to sporting arenas, close to downtown, convention centers. So that makes it a really great location for these properties. You can use a tool called AirDNA. If you guys want to search AirDNA, you can use a tool like that to help you go online and kind of check average nightly rates and occupancy in your particular areas. If you want to see, how good is an area for a short-term rental, take a look at something like AirDNA, and that could be something that could really help you figure out a good location. Your numbers reflect a property management company. No, right now I self-manage, but I am about to hire my first employee in my company, and that person is going to be responsible for managing my properties, responding to all messages, restocking, going to Costco, buying supplies, all that good stuff. So that will be an extra expense that I will have that will come out of my monthly revenue. It will be an employee, yes. Were all these properties originally multiplex properties before the rehab? Kind of. Like, for example, Heather's property had a house in the front and 2 apartments on the second floor. What we did after she walked it with my architect and my general contractor, and they looked at that back garage apartment, they were able to look at it and tell her, you know what? We think we can add 2 more units on the first floor of this back garage apartment. So they actually turned that back building from being a duplex to a 4plex. And the house in the front is still, an extra unit. So we were able to turn that overall. It had a house in the front and 2 apartments in the back. And now her property has a house in the front and 4 apartments in the back. So we kind of supersized it, if you will, from being a multifamily to an even bigger multifamily. Sometimes my students are taking large houses and splitting them up into duplexes. This property I'm in right now was a duplex when I bought it. So I kept it a duplex. AirDNA, D as in David, AIR, D as in David, NA, like DNA, like your body DNA. So that's what that is. Okay. I know several people who own short-term rentals in San Antonio and have trouble renting them out. Well, that's important because the types of short-term rentals I like to buy are larger property, minimum 2-bedroom. A lot of people are doing something called rental arbitrage, where they're like renting a 1-bedroom apartment and furnishing it and putting it on Airbnb. I think that's a terrible strategy. Personally, I don't like that strategy because, number one, 1-bedroom apartments are competing with hotels. I mean, if somebody's looking at hotels or motels, or they're looking at a 1-bedroom apartment, they both kind of sleep similar occupancy, right? So you're competing with hotels, you have a really big competitive pool. And because rental arbitrage is really easy to get into, a lot of people are doing it, right? But if you stick with properties like what I've got here, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom houses, for example, now you're in a kind of a smaller pool, a smaller competitive pool, and you've got less competition. So I like to focus on larger properties myself and offer amenities to really help them stand out, like pools, or like, for example, in the 16-plex, I'm really approaching it from a boutique hotel mindset. So I'm going to bring in acoustic guitar players on the weekends, wine tastings, things like that, that will really help it stand out and not just be a place where people are going to sleep, but something really cool as well. Question, are larger units typically good for short-term rentals? What if they don't have ensuite bathrooms? I think I kind of answered that, but definitely I like to go with larger properties. You have a duplex that's a 4.2 on one side and 3.2 on the other side. I get about $3K per month long-term. Yeah, doing short-term rentals. Yeah, I would say go for it, right? Like at minimum, if you've got, John, if you've got a duplex, you can try out just furnishing one side of it and seeing how it goes on, how it does on Airbnb. Go to AirDNA. Also open up Airbnb itself and look at properties that are kind of listed in your area. So just pretend like you're going to book a property in your location on Airbnb and see what the nightly rates are, and then go into the calendar and see how booked those calendars are, right? And that'll help give you an idea of how hot your area is, and if that can really be a great location for Airbnb. All right, so try that out. Connor, what is the market research you do prior to purchasing a property? What data or software do you use to quantify the average monthly income? Yeah, so AirDNA is a great tool. I also use like MLS to help me figure out comps. So in terms of like, before I buy a property, I want to calculate the after repaired value, which I figure out through MLS. I want to do my rehab due diligence to make sure I get my rehab costs done right. And I do all that prior to purchasing a property. In terms of the Airbnb side, I look at things like AirDNA. I go into Airbnb directly and I pretend like I'm going to book a property in this area that I'm considering buying, and seeing how many properties pop up, what their average nightly rate is, all that stuff to really get a good idea if that's a good location for Airbnb. Some people don't allow Airbnb, so yep, that's certainly a good thing to look at, Amanda. How important is the state of the neighborhood when you buy the ugly house in an ugly neighborhood? Well, you definitely want to, be looking at the neighborhood too, to make sure that it's kind of an up and coming area, right? I mean, you don't want to do this in like war zones or things like that. You want to make sure the area is up and coming, that there are still some, other people are doing Airbnb in the area. You don't want to be on the bleeding edge. So make sure other people are doing Airbnb in the area, which, do those things that I talked about. Go on Airbnb, go online, see if there's other Airbnbs in the area, and then go to AirDNA too. Do your research, figure out if what the occupancy is in that zip code or in that neighborhood, and what the average nightly rate is, and kind of use that. Be conservative. Like if it says average, the occupancy in that area is 70%, use 50% as your occupancy when you're doing your analysis, and make sure that it's still going to cash flow, right? Make sure it's still a good deal at 50% or 40% occupancy. And if it's still going to cash flow at 40 or 50% occupied, then when you start hitting 70% or 80% occupancy, that's just kind of extra gravy, right? You don't want to do really thin deals, or else it's going to be very, very, very challenging. Am I self-financing? When you get a hard money loan, you borrow the money for the purchase and the rehab. So you have to come out of pocket a little bit to start the rehab, but then you get draws from your hard money lender as you complete phases of the rehab project. So self-financing, in a way, you're using your money to get the rehab going, and then you're getting reimbursed by your lender. So you come out of pocket, then you get reimbursed. You come out of pocket, you get reimbursed. That's how it works. Are there zoning considerations? Yeah, I mean, I'm in Houston, so I'm kind of lucky because it's pretty much the Wild West as far as zoning goes. We don't have zoning here, but you definitely want to do your due diligence and make sure that you can do Airbnb in the neighborhood that you're looking at, that you can do Airbnb in the city that you're looking at, and that there aren't any kind of restrictions around that. All right. Wow, we made it through all those questions. Andy M's question above, please. Oh, Andy, did I miss a question with Andy? Let's go back up here and see. I think I answered. I didn't see a question from Andy.
We have it here in the chat. You have It's a
Okay.
financing question. You can find it here in the chat.
Okay, financing. Okay. Let's see. Scroll back up here. How can I get a mortgage on these rentals with 100,000 in savings, but very little income on my tax returns? That's a great question. Really, when we talk about income producing properties, okay, it's really less about, you and credit and, your income, and more about the income that the property is going to produce. So as long as you're buying a property that can cover the mortgage, cover the debt, okay, and that's what banks look at. They look to see, after you purchase and you rehab the property, what is going to be the mortgage on it and how much money is the property going to make? Obviously, if the mortgage is going to be, let's just say $5,000, but the property is only going to earn $3,000 a month, banks are going to frown upon that because they're going to say you're not even going to make enough money to cover the mortgage. But if you have a property that the mortgage is $5,000, the property is going to make $7,000 a month, well, now you're in a good position where the bank feels confident that the property is going to produce enough income to pay for the mortgage. So they're not really worried about your income, that how much money you make, because they're going to be looking at the property's income to pay the mortgage. That's what they're going to be assuming, is that the property is going to cover the mortgage. All right. Any more questions? Are we out of time, or should I keep going here?
We are out of time.
Okay.
Sorry about that. If anyone is interested in contacting Jihab, you have already the information for the Calendly and the social media of Jihab, because we are a little bit exceeded on time. Thank you everyone for attending. Thank you, Jihab, very much for this great presentation. The information was really valuable. And thank you everyone. Now we will have Morena, that it's an account manager of Real Estate IQ, showing a little bit more about our off-market lists. So More, feel free to start.
Hi everyone, let me share my screen. There we go. Can you all see it?
Yes.
Perfect. So our off-market leads are currently in Georgia, Utah, Florida, and Texas. We send them Monday to Friday every day at 10 a.m. We mostly work with single families, and we have different leads such as probate and heirship, pre-foreclosure, appointment as substitute trustee, evictions, tax sale, nullification, and divorce. So if you want to learn more about off-market leads, please say yes to our survey, and we will be contacting you in 24 hours or so.
Great, thank you, More. Thank you very much for the information. Thank you, everyone, and we hope to have you again in our upcoming events. And Jihab, for sure, we hope to have you again giving a webinar with us. It was a pleasure to have you, and have a good night, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.